Good afternoon, everyone. This is Backgarden Reads, and today we're talking about the Poetic Edda, the Oxford hardback translated by Caroline Larrington. On the back, she sees coming up a second time, earth from the ocean, eternally green. The waterfalls plunge and eagle soars above them, over the mountain hunting fish. Now, I'll start off with the length of the book. It's about 350 pages. However, of those 350 pages, maybe only 270 of those are actual part of the Poetic Edda. At the beginning, there's an introduction, translation, bibliography, and genealogies of gods, giants, and heroes. There's an appendix, explanatory notes, annotated index of names, and yeah. Now, to begin off, why would you read the Poetic Edda? Well, quite simply, it has influenced so much of the modern fantasy at large. How? Well, you probably already know this, but it's one of the main inspirations for Lord of the Rings. It's one of the biggest inspirations for Tolkien in general, and there were several more inspirations for sure, but this is definitely one of the more famous inspirations. There's also C.S. Lewis, who I believe did Chronicles of Narnia. You know, Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, and all that. And you can also can't discount the fact that the Poetic Edda has also influenced things like anything of Norse or Viking or Scandinavian type, like story, Vikings and all that, has been influenced by the Poetic Edda in some way. I would say even Vinland Saga, the manga and the anime, is most definitely somewhat influenced by the Poetic Edda. It's more influenced by the actual real life events of Leif Erikson, right? However, it's still, still somewhat fictionalized. Now, an interesting fact about the Poetic Edda is that this was written in the time of when the Scandinavian countries were being overtaken by Christianity and being overcome by Christianity. And one thing about Christianity and quite a few other big religions is that they usually consume or change they consume, change, or destroy local legends, or recontextualize them and as myths or as demons or something else. You see that with so many different things. You see that with quite a few of the Roman gods. That happened with the Roman gods, or the Greek gods, you could say. Well, the Roman versions of the Greek gods, where there were some of the gods were turned into like demons and you can also just see that in the like Ragnarok and the a lot of the myths of the gods of like the Scandinavian legends, you have like Loki steadily becoming more and more evil and all that. Now, his appearance, especially in the Marvel version, is very, very much influenced by the evil sort of devil, the red guy. And that cat just won't stay quiet. He really wants something from me, probably some food. I get him some food in a little bit. Now, in that wake of how Christianity and so many other religions, big religions, do that, have that process, there has been many times over in which local cultures, before being taken over by this religion or this bigger religion, they usually disguise some of the practices as something else until a long time away, until long after the change of religion, that they then reveal, this was a pagan thing the entire time and you had no idea. I mean, Christmas is one such example. Day of the Dead is another one. And there's probably so many more too. And those are just holidays. In the case of the Poetic Edda, there are a lot of Icelandic myths and of that sort, in which there was this author that was afraid that they were just going to destroy these myths forever and they're just going to be completely erased from history. And in that way, he cleverly wrote this as some story and Christianized just a little bit of it, or just enough, so that when the Christians came to it, they would look at it and go like, oh, okay, this isn't so bad, we'll keep it. And you see that has more or less succeeded, as this is one of the most important books of the Scandinavian, of Norse mythology, to have survived more or less intact. That's a similar case to the Arabian Nights, where Islam was about to completely take over this local country, this area, and there was this person, or these authors or writers, that were so afraid that these myths and all these things would be long forgotten and erased or recontextualized into this horrible thing. And so they disguised it as a sort of tale, as this one big tale of this woman like telling us one continuous big long story to the Sultan over every night for, I think, 500 nights, 501 nights, I believe. And it was then that it managed to, and it had just enough of the Islamic sort of interest and values that it remained more or less intact. Now, this is not about the Arabian Nights, this is about the Poetic Edda. And to talk about the book itself, or the physical book, it's a cloth back bound book, somewhat similar to the poetry of the First World War, like I said the last time, well, in one of my previous reviews. And I like this cloth back far more than I do like the standard card or laminated wood or something like that. Not wood, but or leather. No, leather would be kind of nice, but this is still just a good feel to it, and it's simple enough that it doesn't stand out too much. No, it's simple enough, and it doesn't need to be overly complicated. It's got this nice little symbol of like the Yggdrasil, the world tree, which is, if you didn't know, very important to the whole Norse mythology at large. And one thing that I really like in the just before they get into the actual poems, there's the genealogy of the gods, giants, and heroes. And you probably can't see, but there's the giants, the Aesir, the Volsungs. Oh yeah, the giants, Aesir, Vanir, Volsungs, and the Giukungs. Giukungs? I'm not sure I pronounced that correctly. But the first three, giants, Aesir, and Vanir, are giants and gods. And the next two is the heroes. And Thiazi and Skadi, Buri, Bur, Besla, Vili, Di, Odin, right? Heimir, Tyr, Aegir, Ran, 9 daughters. For Buri, Laufey, Angroboda, Loki, Sigyn, Narfi, Fenrir, Hel, the World Serpent, Eord, Odin is Sif is Thor, Sif, Modi, and Magni, Frigg. Well, you get the general idea. But it's a really it really kind of, it reminds me of like Tolkien, and it's like all these other sorts of books where they have this son of so on and so on and so on and so on, and that's very important in the sort of the Norse the Norse culture. Like that's the why you have. It's like one of the reasons why you have SON or SEN. If you were the son of this particular man, right? If your father was Lars, you'd be Lars' son or Lars' sin. And if you were a woman and you were Helgi and you had a daughter, she would be named Helgi's daughter, right? That's one thing that most people, I think, forget, like, don't realize, and is actually pretty consistent and pretty interesting. But otherwise, I think it's a very good book. I think it's a very good book if you wanted to understand this whole thing and just have a greater appreciation for Norse mythology in general. And yeah, that's my review of the Poetic Edda.